Dav Kuf Chav Daled Amud Beis, 4 lines from the top. We were discussing the shita of Rava that a kli shemalach l'yisur is muter l'tzarach guf mekaymen. That a kli that its primary function is for something which is also on Shabbos, it is muksa, and it cannot be taken michama l'tzeil, from the sun to the shade. It cannot be moved just to protect the item or for no use at all. Certainly it can't be taken, but it is muter to be metalpalid, the sarach gufa, to use the item itself or the place of the item. Rav also holds of that shita. Where do we see that? Because Rav said, Ma shelo yiganev, if he takes a hoe and he wants to move it so that it doesn't get stolen, zeh tilta shelo l'sarach v'asar. This is considered a tiltal, moving it for not a purpose on Shabbos. This is considered a tiltal, which is also on Shabbos. Time shelo yiganev. So why is it considered a tiltal that's also? Because the purpose is only so it doesn't get stolen. But that implies that if the sarach guf mekayim, it would be muter. Is that so? Rav kahana ikl bei Rav. He went to Rav's house on Shabbos for Omar. And Rav said, bring a trap for Rav Kahana to sit on it. So he specified that the moving of this trap, which is a kli shemalach l'yisur, should be brought so that Rav Kahana could sit on it. So why is he specifying that? Lav l'meimra, isn't it to say, the davar shemalach l'yisur l'sarach gufin l'sarach mekayim alay? Doesn't that seem to imply that it's only the sarach gufa? So he wanted to make a point and to emphasize that he should be sitting on it, that he can sit on it with sarach gufa. But if it's sarach mekayim, just to move it out of the way, it would be also. So that implies that he had to say, move it not because you need the makam, move it because we need it for Rav Kahana to sit on it. That it's the sarach gufa. But if it would be the sarach mekayim, it would be also. More says no. This is what he meant to say. What he meant to say was remove it. We need the place where we need this place for Rav Kahana. We need this place where the trap is, so move it away. Meaning he wanted to make a point to show you that l'tzarach mekayim, it's muter. It's muter l'tzarach mekayim. Maybe I'll tell you that over there, really the trap is in the sun. Now, if somebody sees that they're moving it, he could think that they're moving it mechama l'tzeil, and that's muter. So he had to make a point to say that no, it's being moved, not mechama l'tzeil. That would be also, it's being moved so Rav Kahana can sit on, but not to imply that the sarach mekayim would be also. It would be muter sarach mekayim as well. But he wanted to dispel the notion that we are allowed to move it mechama l'tzeil. So he said, we want to move it, not to protect it, because we want to use it for consistent on it. Rav Mori Baruch had pillows, soft felt pillows that were out in the sun, and the sun could damage these types of pillows. So also, the Ravi came before Amar Tolino, can I be metaltal? Can I move it inside? He said, Amar Le, sure. He says it's muter. But Rav Mori said, I have other ones. I don't really need this. So Rav said, but you can use it for guests. So, but Rav Mori answered back, Isli name l'orachin. I have other pillows for guests as well, so I don't really need it. Rav said to you're shown by all your responses, you show that you hold like Rabbah, that a kli shemalach l'heter is also mechama l'tzeil. They didn't say kli shemalach l'heter, but the only purpose is to protect the item. To take it mechama l'tzeil, that it's also. So therefore, since you are going with the shita of Rabbah, for everyone else it's muter, because Rabbah says I hold that it's muter, but you are going with the shita of Rabbah, so for you it's also. Brooms made out of cloth, so they use it to clear away from the table. To sweep away the crumbs from the table. That's muter l'tal v'shabbos. It's a kli shemalach l'heter. Aval shel tamora loy. But brooms, the brooms that they made out of palm leaves, it's also. They used to sweep the floors, and the floors in those days were earthen floors, and there is a problem of being mashva gumis. It levels it out and it fills in the holes, and therefore you can't use it because it's a kli shemalach d'liasir. And Rabbi Elazar Aimer Shel Tamor. And Rabbi Elazar says even the Shel Tamor it's mutter. Those are also mutter. What are we dealing with? So it's a kli shemalach d'liasir. So if he needs l'tzar guvul mekaymai, b'ha lema Rav Shel Tamor loy. So why would Rav say that Tamor loy? Rav kiravasvirle. He holds that a kli shemalach d'liasir is mutal l'tzar guvul mekaymai. So even though these brooms are kli shemalach d'liasir, and even though he perhaps doesn't intend to be mashva gumais, it's a dover shein miskaven, but if he Rashi Shita, even Rav Shimon would be might in these cases because it's a psik reisha. So nevertheless, even though it's a kli shemalach d'liasir, but it's Rav holds mutal l'tzar guvul mekaymai. Elia tell me that the issue was whether he can take it from the sun into the shade to protect it. So Baha Lamer Belezer Shel Tamor. How can Rabbi Lezer say Shel Tamor is mutter? Akli shemalach d'liasir. Everybody holds that is also mechama l'tzeil. More answer loylo mechama l'tzeil. What we're talking about is mechama l'tzeil. Ema v'cheina Rabbi Lezer. The Rabbi Lezer also says that it's also that the ones made out of the cloth are mutter because it's not a kli shemalach d'liasir, but the brooms of the palm leaves is also because of the kli shemalach d'liasir, and it's also mechama l'tzeil. Zok the Mishnah kol kelim nitalim b'Shabbos. Any kelim which are mutter to be metaltal on Shabbos, shivreim nitalim yimoyim. If there's broken pieces, you can be metaltal the broken pieces as well. But they have to have a purpose. They have to have a purpose for it. So we're discussing the Gemara when these items got broke, when they were broken. But if you have kelim which are not muksa, if there's a broken piece, then it's also you can be metaltalim as long as they have a function. For instance, if you have a mixing bowl, a piece broke off, as long as it's usable, you can cover a barrel with it, then it's mutter. It has a purpose. You can be metaltal. Or broken pieces of glass. So it was a glass, it was a kli, and now it broke. As long as you can cover a jug with it, it has a purpose, so it's mutter. But Rabbi Yehuda it's not enough to have a purpose, a function. It has to have the similar type of function that it had before it was broken. So therefore, a mixing bowl, so it was used for mixing. The broken piece has to be large enough and usable enough that you can pour porridge into it and have the porridge into it, and also serves that type of a function as a mixing bowl. And the glass is used to contain liquids. So if you have a broken piece, it's large enough and it's suitable enough to pour oil into it, then it also has me'ein malachta. So he holds it's not enough to have a purpose. Rabbi Yehuda holds it has to have a similar purpose that it had before it was broken. But the Tanakama holds any purpose. The Rashba says that doesn't mean that if you have a stone, and it can be used for any purpose, it's not muksa. The Rashi Shita, and it's brought down in the Mishnah Berurah as well, as the Levush Shita of the Levush brought down in the Mishnah Berurah as well, that we're talking about something which was a kli, and now it's a broken piece, and it has a function, even if it's not the same function, but it came from a kli, then it's mutter. But if a stone which was never a kli, then it's still muksa. The Prisha has a different approach to it, but that is the approach of many of the Paiskim, that we're talking about something which was a kli. Even though it's broken, as long as it has a function, it's mutter to be metaltal. So we learned in the Mishnah, if there were broken kelim, the broken pieces, if they have a use, they can be used on Shabbos. You can be metaltal them on Shabbos. And Rabbi Yehuda says it has to have the former use. Only then can you be metaltal it. So Rabbi Yehuda Mishmuel says the machlekes when they were broke on Shabbos. What's the machlekes? The Mar Sava, Me'ein Malach Dinin, Me'ein Malach Cheres Loi. that Rabbi Yehuda holds that it has to have the original purpose. It still has to be able to be used for the original purpose, but not for a different purpose. Umar Sovar afilu mein melacha acheres. The Tanakama holds it can have even a different purpose, even a different use. So that's the machlokes where it was broke on Erev Shabbos. Aval nishru b'Shabbos, but if it broke on Shabbos itself, if that's when it broke, then divrei hakol mutar. Everyone holds it's mutar, hoil muchanim al gabe yavim mutar, since it was muchan al gabe yavim. It was part of the whole kli, as part of the father, so to speak, the whole kli. It was part of the whole kli, and that was muchan. So on the onset of Shabbos, it was muchan. So everyone agrees that it's still mutar. That it's mutar because if it was mutar when Shabbos came in, it was a kli when Shabbos came in, it's still usable, then it's considered to be a functional kli. The machlokes is that when it broke not on Shabbos, it broke on Erev Shabbos. If it broke on Erev Shabbos, Rav Yehuda holds that since it's no longer a part of that kli, and it can no longer be used for the same function as that original kli. So this is the way the Ritva explains it. And therefore, he says that it does not yet have a designation. It broke before Yont. It is not part of the original kli. It's not part of the whole kli. It can't be used for that same function unless you designate it, unless you use it before Yontif for an alternate use. It doesn't have a designation. It's not muchan. But if it broke on Shabbos, it was muchan already when Shabbos came in. On the onset of Shabbos, it was muchan agav avin. Ma'aseh Rav Zetroy Asakasha. We learned in Gabi Yontiv Masikim Bekelim Vein Masikim B'Shivra Kelim. On Yontiv, you can burn things. It's bishul mutar. You can use for fuel kelim, whole kelim, but not shivra kelim, not broken pieces. Dinishru emas. When did they break? What are we talking about here? When did they break? If we're talking that it broke on Erev Yontiv, there should be no worse than firewood. Firewood is not muksa on Yontiv. So if it's talking where it broke before Yontiv, why should Shivrei Kalim, why should it be muksa? Elala beyond, it must be talking that it broke on Yontiv. Oketanim Masikim Bekalim and Masikim Shivrei Kalim. And it says you can use Kalim, but not broken Kalim. So you see that even if it was broken on Yontiv, the Tana holds that you cannot use these broken pieces. That you cannot use these broken pieces even if it was broken on Yontiv. So therefore, you wanted to say that the machlokes is only if it broke on Erev Yontiv, but if it broke on Shabbos, rather, you wanted to say that everyone agrees that it's Muchanim L'Gabe Avim. We'll see over here in this machlokes where you have to say it was broken on Yontiv, and nevertheless, you cannot use the broken pieces, and the broken pieces can't be used. So, therefore, your explanation of the machlokes cannot be correct. You must explain it as follows. The machlokes is opposite. The machlokes is when it's nishbur b'Shabbos. The Marasavar muchan hu. The Tanakama holds that it's muchan as long as it can be used for something. It's muchan. And Rav Yehuda holds that it's noilet. If it cannot be used for the same purpose as previously, if it cannot be used in that same way, then it's considered something new. It's not considered the original kli, and therefore it's noilet. And he holds that therefore the noilet is also. Aval me'erev Shabbos devra kol mutarim. But if it was an Erev Shabbos, then everyone will agree that it's mutar. Since it had this purpose, this alternate use, it had already miba'ayjayim. So therefore, on the onset of Shabbos, it had this use. It's not muksa, it's mucha. Meaning, the way we're explaining it right now is that, and this is according to the way we're explaining it according to one mahal, not all of the Rishonim take this approach, but according to this approach is as follows. Really, what revolves, whether it has to be the same use or alternate use, it all revolves around the concept of noilad. Now, if it broke on Erev Shabbos or Erev Yom Tov, whether it has the same use or alternate use, it doesn't matter. It has a use, and before Shabbos came in or Yom Tov came in, it had another use, so it's not muksa, and it's not noilad. It has a use, and it doesn't matter what that use is. The whole idea of whether it has to have the same use or different uses, if it broke on Shabbos, if it broke on Yom Tov, there, if it retains the same use, it's not called noilad. If it doesn't retain the same use, it's something new. So it's something that was born, so to speak. It was noilad on Shabbos or Yom Tov. Now, depending what you hold about noilad, therefore, depending what you hold about noilad, if you paskin, if you hold like Rosh Shimon or Rav Yehuda, if you hold like that noilad is also is muksa, there that will be the basis of the machlokes, whether you say that this is also or not. So this is one approach, that it certainly is considered noilad if it broke on Shabbos and Yom Tov, and it does not retain the same use. It's considered noilad, and the machlokes is noilad also or not. Now, another approach is, a different approach that Rishonim take is gufa machlokes, is this considered noilad? If you have a broken shlit that has a use, the fragment, the broken piece has a use, but not the same use, is this considered noilad or not? It's not a question, do we paskin that noilad is muksa or not? It's a question, does this constitute noilad? That's a different approach. But this approach is that we're taking is that if it does not retain the same use, then it's considered to be noilad, and the machlokes is noilad also or not. One brisa says you can use for fuel, you can use kalim, whole kalim, but not broken pieces. We learned another brisa, in another brisa we learned that you can both kalim and shivri kalim. The other brisa says you can't use either of them. The Gemara says, how do we resolve this? Rav Yehuda, Rav Shimon, Rav Nechemia. The brisa says that you can use kalim, but not shivrei kalim. That's Rav Yehuda, and we're talking where it broke on Yom Tov, and it's noilad, and therefore it's noilad. Rav Yehuda hold that noilad is also therefore masikim bekalim, but not shivrei kalim. The brisa says that you can use both as Rav Shimon. And as long as it has a use, as long as it has a purpose, he holds that noilad is mutter. It's not muksa, so you can use both, kelim and shivrei kelim. The brisa that says you can't use either of them is from the Nechemia that says that they include nital sarach tashmishay. So a keli is not meant to use, is not designated for firewood. You can't use a keli, and you can't use a shaver keli either. They're both considered to be muksa. Rav Nachman, Hana lived in Ishnair ben Yoni, bricks that were left over from a building, from construction, Charlotte Polina. It's not muksa. You can be metalta, because you can use it as a bench, you can sit on it. Sharginu vadayaksinu. But if you pile them up, if you stack them up, then you're saving them, you're designating them to use for building, for future construction, and therefore it's muksa. And therefore it's designated for building, and therefore it's muksa. Amar Rav Nachman Shmuel Cheres Kitana Mutter Tal Chatzer. He said a small piece of earthenware, a broken piece of earthenware, is mutter to metaltal in a chatzer. It's not considered muksa. Now here we're not discussing the carrying aspect of it. That we're even in a case where we're discussing the muksa aspect of it, even in a case where you're not allowed to carry and he's carrying it only less than dalet amas, or even a case where there's an erev and he is allowed to carry. The discussion over here revolves around muksa. So he says that this piece of cheres in a chotzer, it's not muksa. Because in a chotzer, it has a use. You have containers there, you have things there, it has a use, so you would cover it up over there. But in a karmelis, it's considered muksa. So, I mean, even carrying it less than Dalet Amos, which is not a problem of carrying, but as far as muksa, it's considered muksa because you don't store your items in a karmelis and it doesn't have a use over there. Rav Nachman, the Amar, Rav Yachid himself said, I feel a bit karmelis. He says even in a karmelis it's mutter because sometimes you'll use it to sit on, etc. You'll find a use for it. Aval Rishus Rabim loy. But not in Rishus Rabim, you don't store things there, you don't sit over there. In Rishus Rabim, even Pachas Midal Ramas, it's also the Rava Amar. The Rava says, I feel Rishus Rabim, even Rishus Rabim, it's mutter. Vaz the Rava Latamein. The Rava Havakaz Elber is Taka de Mechuza. He was walking through the streets of Mechuza. It's Vase Mesana Tina. His shoes became dirty with mud. Also, his shamas came, shakal chas v'kamachaperle. He took a piece of cheres and started to clean it off. Ramo, or by Rabbana Kol, Rabbana started to scream at them that's moksa. How can you do it? Omar Rava said to them, "Lo mistayed. It's not only enough that they don't learn, that they don't know the halacha. Migranami magme. They teach others their amaratzes. Why is that? Because it said this has a use in a chalzer. If this was in a chalzer, would have a use to cover a keli with it. So therefore, it has a use for me as well. Over here, it has a use for me. Meaning, what he holds is that since it has a use in a chalzer, therefore, you can use it. It has a din of a usable item. And as long as you have some use for it in Rishus Rabim, it's not muksa. Once it even though this on its own in Rishus Rabim, to use it for this purpose would be a not common use. But since it's commonly can be used in a chaser, we say therefore it's not muksa and it can be used in Rishus Rabim as well. If you have a lid of a barrel that was broken, it's not muksa. You can be metal to it on Shabbos because it can be used for a cover for other things. If you have the lid that was broken, you can be metal to it and the broken pieces, as long as it's usable, as long as it can be used as it has a purpose. But you should not smoothen it out. You shouldn't fix it. In order to use it for a covering for a kli, or to use it as a support for a bed. But if one threw it into the garbage heap, then it's also because now you're showing you're discarding it and it has no purpose, so it's muksa. What do you mean? Also, if a person took a garment, if he took a suit, a jacket, something that has inherent chashivas, and he threw it into the garbage on Shabbos, you're going to say now it becomes muksa? It's usable clothing. Elamara Papa, what does he mean to say? What he meant to say is, if he threw it before Shabbos into the garbage, into the ashba, it's also. By throwing it into the ashba before Shabbos, since this is something that has minimal use, and by throwing it into the garbage, therefore he indicates that he has no use for it, then on the onset of Shabbos, it's not muchan. Now, something which was not thrown in the garbage on the onset of Shabbos, it had a purpose, it's muchan. Throwing it into the garbage on Shabbos doesn't negate that. But if you threw it in before Shabbos, it does. Masha'en kain. But clothing, since it has a chashav, a purpose, a use, it has chashivas on its own, it's inherently chashav. Throwing it into the garbage either before or after, it doesn't make a difference. It's usable, and anybody can pick it up and use it. So there, it won't make a difference. But this type of item, which has minimal use, if you threw it into the garbage before Shabbos, it's muksa.